This export terminal is one of the world's biggest outside China. It is being built in Brazil, just outside São Paulo, by the Chinese state agricultural giant Cofco. At the cost of $285 million, it could spell the loss of billions of dollars in revenue for American farmers.
Here's why. Beijing has went through hundreds of billions of dollars on American rural items over the final decade, making China one of the best markets for American agriculturists. Donald, we'll be talking about exchange. In 2018, Washington presented the primary tranche of duties on China, and Beijing struck back with duties of its possess. But the plunge in exchange was short-lived, and China's request for American horticulture deliver recovered and indeed boomed within the taking after a long time. But the fallout from the primary exchange war cleared out Beijing trying to find other providers. Wealthy in meat, crude materials, and crops, Brazil has gotten to be the #1 nourishment provider to China, overwhelming the US. Brazilian rural sends out to China come to a record toll of around $60 billion in 2023, but much appreciated to this harbor in southeastern Brazil, that relationship is set to gotten to be indeed more profitable. In 2024, the harbor of Santos dealt with a record 180 million tons of cargo, of which more than half was agrarian products, such as corn, sugar, and Brazil's key send-out soybeans. Brazil's soybean trades are worth over $50 billion, and approximately 30% of that exchange passes through Santos, primarily on its way to China, but the harbor can barely keep up. Nowadays, more than 90% of the port's capacity for trading agrarian bulk merchandise is in Utilize, agreeing to Coordination's counseling firm, Macroinfra. That's why Cofco is building this send-out terminal here at the harbor. The state rural monster trusts to expand its capacity for trades from 4.5 million tons to 14 million tons, bringing billions of dollars in income. But within the US, ranchers stress that this increment can be accomplished at their cost. Trump's to begin with, exchange war driven to more than $27 billion in misfortunes of agrarian trades, concurring to USDA investigate. Donald, we have a $1 trillion exchange shortage with China. Hundreds of billions of dollars a year we lose with China, and unless we fathom that issue, I'm not going to make a bargain. Since Trump's return to office, China has found itself beneath recharged weight, and American agriculturists are bearing the brunt. Trade information in April appeared China was, as of now, cutting back on U.S. soybean buys. It has too diminished the sum of pork it plans to purport in 2025. As Trump inclinations Beijing to fourfold its buys of American soybeans in an offer to diminish the exchange shortfall, the development of the harbor will permit China to purchase indeed less from the U.S. The Santos harbor fits into Beijing's more extensive range to get to South America's agrarian bounty as China endures from a need of water and arable arrive at domestic. Chinese companies are laying hundreds of miles of railroad over Brazil's agrarian heartland, and they're indeed arranging an yearning rail venture to interface those locales to China's 3.5 billion megaport in Peru. This about 3 0-mile-long railroad might abbreviate send-out times from Brazil to Asia by up to 10 days, agreeing to China's state media. Still in its early stages, this would be a phenomenal endeavor for the landmass. But whereas this booming relationship with China guarantees billions of dollars in income, there's a risk for Brazil. Brazil is presently confronting one of the speediest processes of deindustrialization in the world. Over later, a long time, Brazil has expanded its sends out of crude materials to China, whereas China has transported made products to Brazil. That's had an obliterating effect on Brazilian factories over later a long time, driving to work losses and a decrease in fabricating as part of the country's GDP. The unused terminal in Santos debilitates to contribute to the country's developing deindustrialization. For a whereas, it looked like Brazil would be an uncommon victor in Trump's exchange war. It was planning to send out more agrarian products to the US and to China, as both nations were bolted in a sharp debate over exchange. But as of late, Trump forced a 50% tax on numerous Brazilian merchandise. That's one of the most elevated within the world, and it's somewhat connected to a criminal case here in Brazil against the former right-wing president Jair Bolsonaro. He is on trial for supposedly plotting a upset within the nation in 2022. He is one of Trump's closest partners, and Trump has said the case may be a witch chase against the correct in Brazil. The Brazilian government gets it that this increment in duties may be a way to pressure the government and the courts to drop the case against Jair Bolsonaro, but they've made it exceptionally clear that that's not getting to happen. China is, as of now, Brazil's greatest exchanging accomplice, but the increment in taxes from the US and Cofco's unused terminal are likely to thrust them indeed closer together.